Hi guys, welcome to VALORANT News. Drama hitting the timeline last night with Loud's coach reportedly getting kicked out of the team after their very difficult stints, and big results happening around the world as well. Some Scrimbux to get into as well. Sentinels versus 100Ts was turning some heads. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're just going to dive straight in. This is challenges in North America and a massively important series potentially last night. Just in terms of the context of the result, TSM absolutely destroyed Qubit Academy. I was not really expecting this, right, because it was the first time for some time that we had seen Sentinels play TSM in any form, and TSM continue a very impressive recent run of form down in challenges. Is this going to be the year that TSM make it back to the Pro League by winning Ascension? We shall see. But I was not expecting Redux to have 9 kills over 2 maps. You're not going to see that every day, and you're probably not going to see it again for some time. Although I will say, Zelsis, I'm sure part of Zelsis is watching this thinking, okay, I'm safe for the time being, right? Because that's been the big talking point, that when Redux is old enough, which he pretty much is right about now, that maybe if Sentinels are struggling, they could consider a change there. And maybe they still will. But with Zelsis playing reasonably well, and with Redux not exactly frying in challenges as of late, then maybe it's changed the tune to some degree. But anyway, this was a masterclass. 13-3 on the Haven, and then 13-4 on the next map on the Icebox. Like, it was an absolute demolition job. It was frankly never even close. And 7 has, what do you go, 42 and 16 over the couple of maps. Just outrageous impact. And to be fair, a lot of it was happening in the mid rounds, really. I mean, it's not like in terms of first kill to first death ratio, it was massively dissimilar. In fact, over the course of the series, Qubit actually had more first kills than first deaths. They had the opening in more rounds than they didn't, which is kind of remarkable to think they still lost in this way. So lots, I'm sure, for them to think about. The other real challenger right now, and I'm fascinated to see this series coming soon, is Envy, former Rankers team, and they got a very impressive win last night against QOR as well. Wasn't quite as dominant as we had seen in the most recent TSM Qubit series, but it was still very impressive. 13-10, 13-9 in the end for Envy, so they get over the line. Baby J and the boys. Exter had, I think Exter actually had a really, look at that, 12-3 first kill to first death rate. So really impressive. Arn continues to deliver as well. That guy is particularly good and didn't really need to be getting involved in all that many opening duels. So Envy get the win there, and that sets things up as follows. So it's all looking pretty spicy. TSM and Envy, those are the two 3-0 teams, and they will play each other next. Of course, the winner there qualifies guaranteed to the playoffs, no questions asked, once you get to 4 wins. So that's a big series. That will determine the #1 seed effectively, and then obviously all the other series are ongoing as well. But that's going to be a big one, right? This TSM Envy series, I'm sure that many are looking forward to this in about 5 days' time to see how that one turns out. Quickly in EMEA, we had some big results yesterday, really. Giant.X debuted their new roster with the changes they made, and they were actually pretty competitive, to be fair. Yes, Fnatic got the win, and Fnatic played pretty well to get the win. Boaster had a nice little ace here on the Ascent, so, cool to see him back to some decent form. But Giant.X put up a bit of a fight. This, of course, their new team with Ara and Flickless in the roster. They made some changes, probably some controversial ones, but it seems to work. I mean, they won the Ascent 13-10 in the end, which was not especially predicted. Crashies went 16-16 on the Teho, but then he turned it around big time for the rest of the series. Crashies turned up on the Lotus. They dominated it 13-5, and then the Haven was again pretty tightly fought, but it was a 13-10 in the end with a big comeback from Crashies. So Crashies had a rough map 1, then he turned it around. Giant.X looking better, not great, let's be real, but certainly better given only a couple of days practice with their new roster in place. So maybe Giant.X have made a decision that's going to take them in the right direction. The other series of yesterday was Gentlemates versus BBL, and this was again maybe not massively surprising. BBL getting the win against Gentlemates. They do continue to struggle. Game 1 was 14-12, banger on the Lotus, and then it was an absolute demolition job. Social B goes 26-4. So, that happens, and the current standings therefore look as follows. Gentlemates fall to 1-3. They're looking good, not to make it at all. And in Group A, it's now all been sewn up. So Giant.X and Apex both going 0-4. They will be your 2 teams not making it through to the playoffs there. And Fnatic right now are looking pretty, but Heretics tonight, they have a big game against Na'Vi if they want to join Fnatic at 4-0, and then that is the very final game that will be played this stage in Group A in the European side. So that's what's happening over there. Just quickly in China, we did get the 2 results yesterday. Zhilai Gaming took down Nova Esports as Wolves closed out against TEC, and as it stands, Titan Esports Club against Dragon Ranger Gaming is ongoing. The game 1 ascent was a 13-1 to TEC, but the fracture currently looks like it might go back the other way. So it's frankly all going on. Look, are either of these teams with their recent form probably going to make a deep run? Probably not, but look, we'll see on that one because that's the first region of playoffs that are properly underway. Let's talk about some Americas drama. There are only 6 games remaining in the Americas to get through to the playoffs. 2 of them are going to happen tonight. G2 Cloud9 is a big game because, like, if G2 were to lose, that's a couple of 4-1 teams, and MRBR in the conversation as well because they play Furia. So the number 1 seed is still all to play for. But G2 should certainly be the favourites to get the job done there. Then MRBR Furia as well. As we've said before, the big game here really is in a couple of days on the 21st because Lev NRG literally determines the final team to make it, right? Everything else effectively doesn't really matter apart from the order of the seeding. Lev and NRG are fighting for that 4th spot. And regardless, you start in losers, which is not great. But even starting in losers, 3 series wins gets you to Toronto, and that's better than not having the chance at all, and Furia do not have the chance at all. In the other group, SEN play 2G tomorrow, then Crew 100T, EG Loud to close out the stage there. We've got to talk about Loud, right, because this organisation represented that region well for a long time. World Championship winners, many legendary players. But this stage, of course, has been a bit of a nightmare. They lost to Sentinels the other day. And, you know, it was, I guess, competitive enough, but on the Haven, it didn't go in their favour. Cowanzan, Pankada, Toys, DGs, and Luxo. That, of course, was when they brought Toys back in for Vinny, who had played the previous series, but it didn't really go that much better. So, look, they've played around with a few things. I feel like Loud, honestly, haven't done, in terms of the talent that they've still got, they've not done the worst job of keeping some of the talent around. It's just, you know, the team dynamics, it just hasn't worked out for them this season. The loss of Sadak, of course, the loss of Sassy as well a couple of seasons ago into Sentinels has taken its toll, I would say, in the longer term. And this is when heads are starting to roll. Let's talk about coaches then. Just a quick update. We saw yesterday Drew Spark, who decided to step away from M80. And I found his statement here, thought it was kind of interesting to say, hope to see you ascend at the end of the year, because I thought, if he's going to go and join another Challengers team, would he wish that his former team ascends? Probably not. So where is he going to go? The rumour as of yesterday is that he's at least in conversations with G2 Gozin, their Game Changers team, of course, to become their new coach for their team. So I think that'll be a pretty exciting prospect. We'll see if that comes true over the coming days. But speaking of coaches, we do have this big update here last night from Bruno Povel discussing that STK is going to be gone. Apparently, Loud has decided to fire STK as their coach after the first split of the Americas. The organisation is already in the market looking for a replacement for the rest of the season. The trend at the moment is that it'll be a foreign coach. Exclusive insider story. So that's basically what the article goes on to say, that due to various difficulties, although it's not yet official, this report found that STK has already been informed that given the poor results, he will not remain on the team for the rest of the season. It's worth noting that Loud is experiencing the worst losing streak in its history in the sport, with 6 consecutive defeats. So that's the thing. They're not playing like the quality of VALORANT they're playing isn't the worst I've ever seen. I feel like there are worse 0-4 teams in the league. I think that's my point. But they're obviously not playing well, and they need someone, I guess, to get the better out of these players, and they don't feel like he is the man. So likely he is going to get kicked off the team. That's the way that things presently look. He's not, of course, tweeted about it yet, and this is one of his most recent tweets here discussing the game against Sentinels, all or nothing, he says, and of course it turned out to be nothing, and maybe that's going to cost him his role on the team. Yeah, that's the most recent tweet that he's done. So we'll see if that comes to fruition over the coming days, but drama everywhere as always. Just some Scrimbux to close out the video with. Sentinels were spotted playing 100T. They were up 15-5. We see Xander, we see Narrate, we see Zekin up 15-5 here. A couple of other results as well happening, although difficult to say who all of those teams were playing against. That 15-5 then actually became 16-6. So, just a little bit more information that we had on the day as well. So 100T have been looking pretty good lately. Maybe it's Sentinels, their time to take take it to the next level. Of course, they played 2G in their final game, and if Sentinels were to get the win against 2G, which they should, they will finish 4-1, with their only defeats coming at the hands of Crew, who, sometimes they just do that, right? So Sentinels at 4-1 would be pretty nice, and if they get there, because they hold the head-to-head against 100T, they will be in a nice spot, potentially even Sentinels, to get the number 1 seed and the associated advantages. But it is Crew 100T as well, so if Crew were to beat 100T and Sentinels were to beat 2G, then it would be 2 teams at 4-1, and Crew would hold the tiebreaker. Whereas if 100T beat Crew, then it's 2 teams at 4-1, but Sentinels hold the tiebreaker. So that's how that might look over the next couple of days. So interesting to see how that goes. Cloud9 were playing Trust in Plug. They were spotted 11-8 up in this one, so they've got a big series, of course, this evening. 100T were playing someone else and were up 15-5 this time. So, we'll see. Of course, it was the other way around against Sentinels. EG played NRG. That was 4-4, but very early days. 100T were playing a roster as well. They were up 13, or they were up 10-3. And we had Crew spotted 12-6 up against M80. So that's pretty much where we leave it for the day. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.